took a while. All right, friends and neighbors and kids of all ages. I'm finally live. Holy cow. Let me shut that light off behind me. Yeah, it's a little bit early, but YouTube has been kind of messing with me a little bit. It took me a little bit of, if you want to skip ahead into the main meat of the show here, it's going to be about 20 minutes. Anyway, I had a whole description written up about talking about wolves today, and it kicked me off. It would not let me go live with that description. So I had to just say wolf talk with Jamie. I couldn't write a description and anything. I mean, it kicked me off of that son of a bitch. So, Dave, good morning. Good morning. Waylon, good morning. Good to have you guys along with you in another Saturday here. I haven't even, after the wind yesterday, holy moly. Morning, Karen. Good to have you along with me this morning. 27 degrees, feels like 18 out there, and I got a baby calf that's curled up out there. Hopefully it's doing just dandy. I'll get it in after the show. What's going on here? Let's see. I was going to check the wind here today. Let's see. Where are you at here? It's like you look at these weather apps and you got to go through like 16 different ads in order to get any information on it here. Today, northwest winds 10. That's fine. Okay. I know Monday's going to be windier than snot again here, so. And a cooling trend coming. There you go. All right, what else is going on here? What else is going on? Remember to guard my privacy and abide by the community guidelines. Okay. I'll do that. Although I didn't know I could not put the description on about wolves this morning. Scott Bulgy, good morning. You and I have been up for a long time already this morning. Son of a gun. When you sent me that message this morning, I was already kind of debating, do I go outside I'll just let that little baby calf, it was up sucking its mama, getting that milk in there, and then she put him over next to the feed bunk and had them all nestled in. And then this morning, I don't know, couldn't see it on camera. Little son of a gun must have been on the other side of the cow. So Clay Peterson messaged me about doing my ivermectin ritual, okay? And it may be a placebo effect that it's happening. I don't know. But I've had 5 other people in the last week also ask me about the same thing. And one of them is a phone number. I have no idea who it is. I am taking, I was given this tin cup by a buddy, and I'm not a big tin cup guy. Straight is okay, but like mixing it with any water or soda or something, so I don't know. It doesn't mix well in my mind. So anyway, I got about that much left in the old tin cup. Everybody says, well, it doesn't work. The alcohol takes away the healing properties of the ivermectin. I've been doing this for 3 years now, really. And so far, I've been feeling this is the least sick I've been in my life. So cheers. I'm going to keep doing it. Cheers to you. Morning, Wayne. Hear about the cow in Minnesota that gave birth to 4 calves, all alive. No, I did not hear that. I'm having a hell of a time keeping 1 calf alive. Yeah, I mean, I might take my ivermectin with orange juice. Yeah, I tried it with orange juice. So I think ivermectin tastes like dog piss. Okay. Okay. Not that I've tasted dog piss, but I don't really care for the taste of this alone. Jesse Flath will shoot this right back in his mouth. He's kind of strange that way. But I feel it ruins a good glass of orange juice. Tin Cup, on the other hand, is in my mind, is not a very good drink at all. So it doesn't matter if it ruins this. that's what I'm going for. So there you go. Morning, Brian. Yeah. I even had a doctor from Sturgis call me. It's, hands down. I think he got my number off of KBHB and called me up. I thought he was going to chew my butt about it, but he actually takes capsules. I don't know if I should out this guy or not. I'm not giving a name, but anyway, he takes you can buy the capsules and he fills them with ivermectin and he gives them to certain patients. He's like, just take these. And lo and behold, what happens? Go to Mexico, you can buy them over the counter. Although you can buy a lot of other stuff in Mexico, it's probably not good for you. Let's see. Let's get Jamie on the phone here. Let's see. There his number is. All right, cover yours. Oh, I got to turn down. You're lucky. Yep. There you go. Oh, shit. I hung up on him. Oops. Why did that hang up on him? That shouldn't have done that. Huh. Let me answer it first here. There. Morning, Darren Munn. Dan Brown, good morning. No, he's not going to take my call because it's like, why'd I hang up on the first time?
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Sorry about the first time I hung up on myself.
It didn't even ring, so.
Oh.
I didn't know you even did it.
Okay. Well, then I don't apologize.
No harm, no foul.
Hey, did you ever look back? Did I pay you for those snares or not? I
don't remember.
Okay. Well, I might need some more, and I'll just double pay you. How about that?
Sounds good. I got a neighbor kid that's a snare builder now. He comes over to the house and just all he does is sit there and build snares.
Oh man! So far, I have the state guy come in, or right stations. I'll do a countdown and to get closer to 7:00 here. We're live on YouTube, by the way, just so you know. So I called the state guy a month ago and I said, hey, instead of waiting until I start calving, should we get ahead of this game? And I legally can't snare after a certain day in North Dakota. And
really?
Oh yeah. So
when did that happen?
Oh, that's been a law for a long time there, man.
Well, I've been gone a long time, but yeah, okay.
But anyway, I'll look it up. I got to look at the dates. I'm not sure if I'm in the right dates or not here, but I know there's certain dates you can trap, certain days you can snare, and it doesn't help when I go into calving season. Plus, I'm pretty busy. And anyway, he come out and he said, I don't know, 60 snares the first day. And he's busy. And this is one thing.
He said he hung 60 snares the first day.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying, you're talking to a guy that hangs a lot of snares. That is quite the feat. Yeah. That is quite the feat to get 60 snares out in a day. I'm just saying.
He spent the whole day. And it works because he came back, he doesn't come, and that's a nice thing about North Dakota. is we don't have that time limit where you have to be there in 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
And it truly, truly is a nice thing. I understand some people don't want to see coyotes hanging in snares. I get that. I understand that. But here's the thing. He's a busy guy, and he's covering most of western North Dakota. And he doesn't have the time to check them every 24 hours, okay? So just to put that out there for all the YouTube people that are listening, by the way. Anyway, I think he checks every week, and he came back, first one, 7 coyotes, and he says that the youngest one was in his 5 to 6 years old. We're getting a lot of older coyotes. He came out the other day. I moved cows into that calving pasture, and he's only around in 2 other pastures around that. And he caught another 6. And he said they were all at least 6 years age or older. He said we're catching a lot of old
coyote that age
coyotes.
A coyote that age isn't gonna hardly have a tooth in his head.
Yeah, he says they're ancient, and he said, but the females are loaded. They got loaded up with some pups inside that he can see, some little sacks or whatever. But I've been out there shooting them. So I mean, I've been out there working and shooting a few. I think I got him up to 13 in the same pastures that he has the snare set.
Jesus.
So we're working that pretty hard, and I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, man. My cows just started calving in that. So far, so good. So anyway, yeah, so we can talk about that a little bit into the wolf side of things. I got kicked off YouTube just by explaining. They had a description in YouTube this morning. It's like, what are you going to talk, what the title of it, and then make a description. So I put in there, Colorado released some in December. They were just released some here the other day. Now there's 10 wolves in Colorado, blah, blah, blah. Went on the whole thing. They kicked me off of YouTube because of that description. So
what?
So I had to just say wolf talk with Jamie Olson is all I had to say. And then they let me on.
So I'm been watching a webinar this morning, The Science of Restoring Wolves to Colorado, and it's got the Wildlife Services state director on there, which at the conversation, and then Kevin Crook, Dr. Crook from the Colorado State University. He has started a thing called what is it? Carnivore. Let me look here. Carnivore conflict. Human. Let me see here.
I haven't heard this one here.
Center for Human and Carnivore. Jesus, I can't even talk. Center for Human and Carnivore Coexistence. And so he founded that. But when you look up the website, it comes up under the Colorado State University. It's listed under. It says Colorado State University. But if you go online to find Kevin Cook, it comes up as this: the Center for Human and Carnivore Coexistence, as his personal website. Anyways, he seems to be one of the drivers of this, and it's amazing how much of our academic dollars go towards political endeavors.
Well, hold all that until we get on the show. Stations, I'm sorry I missed it. 70100 on Mark. 701. Yeah, save that for the show start, because when I was looking at information and researching all week, and when you start typing in wolves in Colorado, wolves in cattle, and it seems to me, and I'm bringing this up when we're on the radio side too, that most of the articles are written by like HSUS or PETA or the World Wildlife Fund, Defender of Wildlife. It seems like those articles are the first ones to pop up where it's, oh no, it doesn't hurt cattle at all, and it doesn't hurt the herds of elk, and it doesn't hurt this, and it's perfectly fine. And then you start talking, and there's a guy I'm following on TikTok right now, Trinity Vandenaker, and he's out of Montana, I believe, and he travels around, and he helps ranchers, and he just films himself talking to ranchers, and he was in Colorado at the rancher that rents the land, the state land that they released the wolves on. And they're not very happy about this. All right. The ranchers are not having a good go of it. And it says on the articles, so far, there's been no livestock losses. And then you look at this guy and they actually have video proof of livestock losses. So it seems like the articles are getting swayed one way on the internet. And then you got to go to a platform like TikTok, of all things, and search through all the people dancing in order to get some information that actually people interviewing ranchers out there. So it's interesting take on it. So, and it's going to be fun talking with you because, I mean, you're a professional hunter on these predators, and we'll get into it a little bit more. But until then, how the hell you been otherwise?
Good, man. Just been the craziest of winters out here with the 50, 60-degree days every day. I've been loving it. I mean, honestly, if this is global warming, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. People say the same thing. It's been a very nice winter up here too. Darren Munn says, if you got somebody making snares, that's child labor. So good for you.
Yeah.
Roxanne McFarland says, good morning, guys. One Shot Cap says, Scott, do you have any wild horses in your area? I do not. Those are all north of me into where you actually get into the actual park side of things.
We got a boatload of them here in Wyoming.
Do you really?
Come and get some.
They're trying to get rid of them in North Dakota. They're trying to get rid of the entire bunch of wild horses in the park.
Well, we had that winter storms last spring, and it killed a boatload of them down there. But they were talking about, wow, geez, they've got so many horses down there. You know, they're destroying the habitat. And then there's another problem with people just letting horses go down there.
Oh yeah, and you can't do that. So if you let a horse, like if I let one of my 16-year-old ranch horses out, he's not going to survive like a wild horse will. He's gonna starve and die, man. I mean, the feet are gonna get long. It's a different makeup right there. You can't do that. Gene Cox, the mayor of Mobridge, says he's gonna call you the Wolf Man now. Remember the radio guy, the old Wolf Man Jack?
Wolfman Jack. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Jim Elber says, good morning, Wayne. I'm gonna wait for that question until we start the show. Eric down in Pierce, South Dakota, morning from the garage. It's been one of those mornings. Yeah, I know. Yeah, sorry. So just a backstory there, Jamie, before we go live on there. Eric, he's been a faithful listener down in the Pierre area with mine for many, many years now, and lost his young son in a drowning accident. And he hangs out with us every morning on Saturday mornings, take his mind off a little bit. So that's good. Let's see here. Dave says, Jamie's really good. He answered some of my questions I've always had about the Wolves. So there you go.
Perfect.
All right, stations, we're about 30 seconds to showtime. 30 seconds to showtime. I better get my stuff in order here. I'm not even set up, ready to go. All right, Jamie, I'm going to turn you down here. We're going to go quiet, or at least I'm going to put you quiet in here. All right, stations, 20 seconds to showtime. 20 seconds on mark. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday edition of Dakota Prairie Outdoors. Heard all around the Dakota Territory on great stations like K-Fire 550, Bismarck, Mandan, North Dakota, KCJB up in the Minot area where I cut my teeth on the radio business, KLTC in the Western Edge and Dickinson. Then we go to South Dakota, KOLY in Mobridge, and KGFX, Pierre, South Dakota. Good to have you along here in the Dakota Territory and around the world here on my YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in across the nation. And maybe even around in some of the Chinese people that are trying to hack in once in a while on my YouTube channel, Dakota Prairie Outdoors Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Well, we got a good one here today, ladies and gentlemen. Gee, I sound like Steve Harvey coming up with the Family Feud here. Jamie Olson's my guest from CoyoteHunter.net and Box Creek Outfitters. Is that right, Jamie? Did I get that right? Box Creek?
Yep.
Did you ever watch Steve Harvey? We got a good one for you, folks.
Steve Harvey was the best.
Yeah. So we're talking let's say fur bearers, because I got kicked off of YouTube already this morning, the first time logging in and trying to do this and putting my show out there by putting too much information and saying wolves. And it's a touchy subject, but we're going to talk wolves today. We are. And we're going to be discussing this because there was, what was it, about a month and a half ago I had you on, and you said, you know what, Scott, that's a whole different show if you want to go into that.
Yeah.
And we're going to, because that's what we do. That's what we do here. So for the first part, we're going to talk a little bit about coyotes, and then we're going to get into wolves because Wayne already has a question. Are you guys calling in and killing any young coyotes? And right now, I said this before we started on the radio airwaves on my pre-show on my YouTube channel, that the state trapper and hunters coming in here and helping me get prepared for calving season. And we've been working on this a month, and all the coyotes that we've been taking out of just one pasture, one draw in one pasture, have all been 6 years and older, according to him. When I shoot a coyote, I just leave it. I don't check anything. So I can't honestly say, but I have not taken any young coyotes that I've seen. Most have been full-grown adults, what I've seen in my scope. But how young? I mean, you're going to get yearlings at this time, I guess, wouldn't you, Jamie? I mean, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. You would have, last year's pups, about as young as you're going to get right now. And they just look like coyotes. Now, the teeth on a year old. So, like, usually on teeth, they should, first year, second year, third year, should be pretty easy to judge the age of them by the curl on those canines. And usually they get past the third year, then you can start having some breakage and some discoloration and wear, of course. Once you start getting past that 4.5, 5.5 year range, it starts getting to be more difficult. Like so when I worked for Wildlife Services, we'd boil out the skulls, and then you take a look at the suture marks on the roof of the mouth, and that's the best way to age them. All those little suture, what am I trying to say? Those little lines in the skull, those will fuse up. Anyway, so it's tough to tell by teeth, but boy, you can tell when you got an old one usually because the teeth are just about gone out of the head. The incisors go first, and then you'll have your canines starting to get wore down. But
so, of all your years working at Fish and Wildlife Service, and your job was to go and hunt predators, there's no doubt about it. Yep. How old can a coyote get?
So in North Dakota, there was a biologist. His name was Steve Allen. His dad actually was the inventor of the compound bow back in the late 60s, I think, in Wisconsin. Anyway, Steve Allen he's got several studies that were run in North Dakota. He did this for about 33 years. And what they found in North Dakota, anyway, they had one that they had in a controlled area just east of Bismarck, over in that Wishick area. And I think that female lived to be 15 years of age, and the male that was running around with her was dead at 10. One of them had an aneurysm, and the other one, I can't remember what happened. I think it just died I think it had heart failure or something. I mean, they recovered the bodies and did autopsies on them. But I think that's about somewhere north of 10 to 15 in the wild isn't that uncommon, even in controlled areas, because a lot of times you have really old coyotes that people just don't hunt because there's enough, pups of the year that come running at them. You notice that with trapping and flying too. You really have to get into a property, knock down all those young ones before you start getting deep into the older coyotes. So sounds like you've got to, those older coyotes put out bigger litters too.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying is, a coyote is somewhat like a domestic dog's life too. I mean, you get to around that 10 to 15. That's pretty old for a domestic dog as well.
Yeah. Okay. You don't see it very often. Usually if you have intact family groups where they're able to hunt more. So if you got the higher densities of coyotes, the less dispersion, the bigger of animals that a group of coyotes can hunt. Coyotes are not pack animals like wolves. Coyotes don't pack. You don't see a pack of coyotes. What you see is an intact family group that gets blown apart on breeding, and then also with density. Sometimes coyotes aren't able to travel to a new area, and then they're stuck just stacking up where they're at, and then they'll hunt together.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm surprised. Like you said, when you said there's a lot of older coyotes coming out of that one pasture that is surrounded by calving pasture, and I was surprised to hear the same thing, how old these coyotes are. And like I said, it's not me making that decision; it's the state trapper or the Fish and Wildlife trapper
Oh,
that's doing
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no reason to think that you would have anything but old coyotes over there. I mean, it seems like everybody I'm talking to right now is just killing historic numbers of coyotes. Even out here, it's the numbers that we're seeing. I got a line for the first time this year. He got out of the breakaway, which is why you have a breakaway on there. I'm not trying to catch lines, because similar to deer, I want them to get out. But I caught that one probably a half mile from the ranch house.
Wow, getting
and
close
it's got to
now,
be
yeah.
and it's got to be he must got his front leg through it up around his shoulders and stuff. And then back to the wolf thing, shit going back 15 or so years ago. I got one north of town here, and that's I was working for Wildlife Services at the time. Everything with Wildlife Services ended up being crazy stories. But we seen another one out of the airplane south of town here in the Laramie mountain range, up in an area called I don't know if it matters, up an area called Downey Park. But he was coming right out of so I was in the airplane. We were hunting coyotes on sheep. And it's a big meadow up there, and it was June. The roads open up, and then you start trailering all these. They bring about 2,500 head up there, and usually around 20 to 25 guard dogs. And so we get up there a day or two ahead of time and try to work on things. But really, until you get the sheep in there, then the coyotes start coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were flying for coyotes one morning.
Hold on, Jamie. Hold on. We're getting really close to break, and I want you to be able to have time to tell this story. We'll tell it on the other side of the break here, and so keep it fresh in your mind, and we'll tell people exactly what's going on here. We'll revisit it as we go, okay? Because I don't want to miss this. Stay with us here. We're talking with Jamie Olson, Box Creek Outfitters and CoyoteHunter.net. We'll have more coming up after these messages here, all across the Dakota Territory on Dakota Prairie Outdoors Saturday edition.
Agriculture is a community of hard work, passion, optimism for the future, and a commitment to the livestock and land. For over 80 years, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been a leader in ag financing. Our local lending team knows the industry and the challenges, from droughts to winter blizzards. Stop by one of our branches today in your work boots or cowboy boots. You're always welcome.
Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Bowman Livestock Marketing, Bowman, North Dakota, having a grass cattle, feeder cattle, and replacement heifer special coming up on Monday, March 25th. If you have any questions or comments, contact Austin Snook, 307-290-2161. That's 307-290-2161. Serving the tri-state area for all of your livestock marketing needs. Bowman Livestock Marketing, Bowman, North Dakota.
Piper's 2024 auction calendar is heating up. Join us in Bowman on March 21st, Sioux Falls on March 26th, and Steele on April 23rd. Ad deadlines are fast approaching, so reach out to a Piper's representative today to ensure your equipment is featured in these Piper's regional auctions. Piper's is also hosting an exceptional lineup of retirement and estate equipment auctions in Mandan, Beach, Bowman, Glen Ellen, and New Salem. For full details, information, and online bidding on dozens of land and equipment auctions throughout the upper Midwest, log on to pipers.com.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Freedom Repair. Whether it's your tractor, baler, your cutter, your combine, or air seeder, Freedom Repair comes to you and helps you get fixed up and back in the field. 19 plus years experience. Give Lucas Kelly a call at 701-440-1945. That's 701-440-1945. Freedom Repair, veteran owned and operated. Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. If you don't know what that is, it's a sort panel that makes sorting calves from a cow a breeze. You can do it in a fraction of time with just one person on foot or horseback. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Mo Rest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Western Frontier Insurance, agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or talking animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered with price in mind. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, Wilton, Bowman, and Hettinger.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, where local banking is as comfortable as your favorite pair of work boots. Step into our branches and experience a friendly atmosphere, personalized service, and financial expertise. Whether you're a hardworking farmer, a small business owner, or a local resident, we've got the banking solutions that you need. So kick off your boots and let us take care of your financial needs at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Piper's 2024 auction calendar is heating up. Join us in Bowman on March 21st, Sioux Falls on March 26th, and Steele on April 23rd. Ad deadlines are fast approaching, so reach out to a Piper's representative today to ensure your equipment is featured in these Piper's regional auctions. Piper's is also hosting an exceptional lineup of retirement and estate equipment auctions in Mandan, Beach, Bowman, Glen Ellen, and New Salem. For full details, information, and online bidding on dozens of land and equipment auctions throughout the upper Midwest, log on to pipers.com.
Don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around.
Welcome back to the Dakota Prairie Outdoors Saturday edition, all across the Dakota Territory this morning, and some other states and Canadian provinces as well. Good to have you along. Jamie Olson from Box Creek Outfitters in Wyoming. We got to make sure. Somebody texted me and said, where's this Jamie guy from? He's talking about hunting the mountains. So we got to give a little background before we go back into your story.
Yeah, real quick. I was born in Devils Lake, North Dakota. Spent my first couple years in Starkweather, North Dakota, and then moved to Mayville. Graduated from Mayville High School. Moved to Washington State for a few years. Worked on commercial jets. Moved back. Eventually left North Dakota again for Wyoming. Got out here in 2007. Worked for Wildlife Services. So I started trapping in elementary school. Started bow hunting. First archery tag in 1979. On the Goose River. So I'm a North Dakota boy. I just moved out to Wyoming to kill coyotes. And then when I left Wildlife Services in 2014, I started my own outfitting business. So I do contract work on about 144,000 acres of private ground, 6,000 ewe lamb pairs roughly that I'm on year round. And then I have another 45,000 acres of mostly antelope, but antelope and mule deer, big game hunting. And then I also guide elk and mule deer and bears for another outfitter all through. So I just hunt, been that way for the last 20 years. I grew up hunting like everybody else around here.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So we were telling a story. You're out in the airplane. You're coming over. Let's go back into the story before we hit the break.
Yeah. So, so they had brought up a group of yearlings up there. And we're it's all green meadows. So there's this group of black cows over here and some white sheep over there, you know, and we're just gridding it off like you would, like you were crop dusting, you know. And I see what looks like a calf coming away from these cows. And so I go to the pile of Jerry. I said, what the hell is that over there? It's because there shouldn't be any calves up there, you know.
Right.
It looks like a calf coming out of those cows over there, and we're a ways away. You know, it's not like we're right there. We're, you know, might be a half mile or a mile from. I can just see this one walking away from it, really weird, like. And Jerry just goes, "That's a wolf." So it's a black wolf, and we went zipping over there, and so we're flying in it's called a Piper. Well, they're not Piper, but it's a top cub. It's like a Piper cub, but it's a modified top cub. Anyways, the government modifies them for hunting coyotes, and we're up in the mountains. We're at like 7,600 feet up on a big valley. So we flew over there, and I actually had a camera with me, a video camera in my sunglasses. So I've got some video footage of it, and we did some passes on it. But anyway, the long of the short of it is we weren't able to shoot that damn thing. We had to get special permission. So we were Wildlife Services, APHIS, and we had to get permission for the U.S. Fish and Game in order to kill that wolf. It was outside of the big game area. It's considered a predator where we're at, but the Wildlife Services wouldn't let us kill it without getting a special permit first. And so once we got the permit, then we went up to go find it again. I couldn't even tell you how many hours we spent in an airplane trying to re-find this coyote. The permit was for 2 weeks.
You mean
and
wolf,
then they wanted
not the coyote, the wolf.
Yeah. The wolf.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm trying to illustrate the amount of money and fuckery that went around.
We're on radio stations. You got to be careful with the words here.
There was a lot of screwing around in order to get that permit. And if they would have just let us shoot that thing right from the jump, the amount of money that would have saved us.
Yeah.
But instead, you have to go through all this rigmarole. And so it don't really. Anyway, we ended up not getting that wolf. There was 2 of them originally. One of them got himself, somebody shot one of them. And then there was just that single moving around up there.
Yeah.
But they just don't even, they make it so difficult to deal with them once they become a problem. Even if they state that, I was listening to this Kevin Cook talk about at what level they have to get to in order to delist them. And he makes it sound like they still have to do decades of research to see even at what number, like the reintroduction into Colorado, at what number would that population get to a point where they would have to manage it. So that, then they turn it back over to Wildlife Services, and Wildlife Services, nobody directly addresses that issue. This webinar I watched, this is from 3 years ago. And even up until the point of release, they still don't have any numbers to work with where here's the upper limit and here's what we're going to do once we approach that.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear this because it's almost like the government doesn't want to protect any of the ranching, agricultural side of things. It's like it's so much paperwork and red tape, and that's all because of the Endangered Species Act, right? I mean, that's why they do this.
Well, here's another thing about that. So it would be beneficial to the animal rights groups, such as the Center for Human and Carnivore Conflict. It would be beneficial to them to have them delisted. Once they're delisted, then it turns into a state management issue.
Right.
Once it's a state management issue, then those states that want to be, well, like Wyoming, the state itself would be able to, have their own internal agencies like the Game and Fish or whatever. Like Colorado, it's Parks and Wildlife, I think is what it is. Parks and Services, Wildlife Services, Park and Recs. They have different agencies that will manage them. But right now, the entire thing is managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And so it would be good for everybody. It's so like reproductive rights, when they change that from being a federal issue into a state issue,
right?
It goes back to state rights. Like, it really shouldn't be like the Endangered Species Act. It should be managed by the individual states. It shouldn't be a federal arm coming down into a livestock state and saying that you deserve to have wolves, where then you've got other states like, oh, to throw some, like I suppose Colorado or California to an extent, Oregon, Washington State, areas where you have you're still going to have livestock conflict, I suppose, in Northern California. I'm trying to think of a state where you wouldn't have as much livestock conflict, but still be able to grow some wolves. Maybe that's
there isn't. That's the thing is, even on the state side, if the local state, it all depends on like Colorado. It was voted statewide, but it was all the urban areas that voted for this.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're fighting the urban. So you go to to Washington State, or you're going to have Seattle and Portland are going to be the ones saying, let's put them out. Let's reintroduce these. And then, the rest of the population that are ranchers that are the very rural areas are going to be the ones having to deal with it. And they, and so far, North and South Dakota both, since it went back to federally protected, both North and South Dakota, I looked up on their websites this morning and did some research. If they're affecting your cattle, you're protecting your cattle, you can shoot them.
Yeah.
But you have to make sure that they are in the act of it or have already done it. And that's what I don't like, is you have to lose a critter in order to be able to have, the right to do this or the privilege to do this. And I think it goes a little bit too far. You shouldn't have to wait that far.
Now, there is, at least in Wyoming, and I might have some of these numbers wrong, but it's easy to go online and look this up. Before Wyoming was state, the wolves were state managed, I think is what's going on now. We have a season and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, there was some animal rights groups that were paying ranchers for verified wolf losses, and pretty loosey-goosey on it. I talked to several people up in that area that were in and around that, and they didn't really throw much of a fuss. And then on top of that, they were paying, there's a ratio, once you find one dead calf, the assumption is that there's 3 or 5. It's never one.
Right.
You never assume that you found all of them. So
So Jamie, hold on. We're up against our last break here of the hour here. I'm sorry to always keep cutting you off, but I got to pay the bills too. So stand by. We'll have more Jamie Olson continue talking about wolves and their effect on cattle and big game animals after this.
Agriculture is a community of hard work, passion, optimism for the future, and a commitment to the livestock and land. For over 80 years, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been a leader in ag financing. Our local lending team knows the industry and the challenges, from droughts to winter blizzards. Stop by one of our branches today in your work boots or cowboy boots. You're always welcome.
Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Bowman Livestock Marketing, Bowman, North Dakota, having a grass cattle, feeder cattle, and replacement heifer special coming up on Monday, March 25th. If you have any questions or comments, contact Austin Snook, 307-290-2161. That's 307-290-2161. Serving the tri-state area for all of your livestock marketing needs. Bowman Livestock Marketing, Bowman, North Dakota.
Piper's 2024 auction calendar is heating up. Join us in Bowman on March 21st, Sioux Falls on March 26th, and Steele on April 23rd. Ad deadlines are fast approaching, so reach out to a Piper's representative today to ensure your equipment is featured in these Piper's regional auctions. Piper's is also hosting an exceptional lineup of retirement and estate equipment auctions in Mandan, Beach, Bowman, Glen Ellen, and New Salem. For full details, information, and online bidding on dozens of land and equipment auctions throughout the upper Midwest, log on to pipers.com.
This portion of the program is brought to you by Freedom Repair. Whether it's your tractor, baler, your cutter, your combine, or air seeder, Freedom Repair comes to you and helps you get fixed up and back in the field. 19 plus years experience. Give Lucas Kelly a call at 701-440-1945. That's 701-440-1945. Freedom Repair, veteran owned and operated. Rockin' 7W has all the panels you need. Freestanding panels, windbreak panels, feeder panels, and the original protester panel. If you don't know what that is, it's a sort panel that makes sorting calves from a cow a breeze. You can do it in a fraction of time with just one person on foot or horseback. You can custom order sizes to fit your current operation, or you can start from scratch. Rockin' 7W also does trailer repair on any size trailers, mobile welding, and custom cattle hauling. Call Justin at Rockin' 7W at 701-206-1030. That's 701-206-1030. Rockin' 7W, the farmer and rancher's go-to guy. MoPro Guide Service, the best on Lake Oahe. Brent and his staff will give you the most enjoyable fishing experience, always having the latest in electronics, gear, and the most comfortable Lund boat on the water. Fish with somebody who lives in Mobridge, South Dakota, the heart of Lake Oahe. If you need a place to stay, the Mo Rest Motel has newly updated rooms with free internet, a family-owned and operated business. Go to OaheWalleyes.com. That's OAHE Walleyes.com for the best fishing experience Lake Oahe has to offer. Western Frontier Insurance, agents that understand you, your needs, and the community. Whether you're looking for coverage on your farm, ranch, home, or auto, you can trust that Western Frontier Insurance will find you a combination of price and coverage that works for you. No fancy jingles, no talking boxes or talking animals, just good neighbors helping to keep you covered with price in mind. Western Frontier Insurance. Offices in Hazen, Washburn, Wilton, Bowman, and Hettinger.
I'm Dale Paulke with Dakota Community Bank and Trust, where local banking is as comfortable as your favorite pair of work boots. Step into our branches and experience a friendly atmosphere, personalized service, and financial expertise. Whether you're a hardworking farmer, a small business owner, or a local resident, we've got the banking solutions that you need. So kick off your boots and let us take care of your financial needs at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
At Dakota Community Bank and Trust, that's what we do.
Equal housing lender.
Piper's 2024 auction calendar is heating up. Join us in Bowman on March 21st, Sioux Falls on March 26th, and Steele on April 23rd. Ad deadlines are fast approaching, so reach out to a Piper's representative today to ensure your equipment is featured in these Piper's regional auctions. Piper's is also hosting an exceptional lineup of retirement and estate equipment auctions in Mandan, Beach, Bowman, Glen Ellen, and New Salem. For full details, information, and online bidding on dozens of land and equipment auctions throughout the upper Midwest, log on to pipers.com.
Don't you worry, one day I'll settle down. And when that time comes, I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around. I hope you're still around.
Welcome back, everybody. Dakota Prairie Outdoors Saturday edition with music right there from Benny Paulson and Breaking 8, the new host of Dakota Cowboy TV. That's right, a new co-host here. So congratulations, Benny, on another venture of yours. Text comes in, says, you guys could have a 3-hour show on wolves. My relatives in Minnesota that hunt in the northern woods for over 60 years have countless stories about wolves, and we'll get into those stories plus more. But Jamie Olson from Box Creek Outfitters is my guest here, and he's going to continue to talk. We were discussing, some of these animal rights groups here that are actually giving payments for some information on this. Explain that again.
Yeah, so if you have end up with a dead calf due to a wolf kill, something like Defenders of Wildlife and stuff like that, there's some different groups out there that will cash payment, and they'll pay you not just for the one that's laying there dead, but they have a ratio, and I don't remember what it is, but it might be like if you find one, they'll pay you for 3. But once it goes into state management and where you can have a license to go kill wolves, then they no longer do that.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a few guys that are familiar with ranches that were having those issues up by the Bighorns, and it was really, no screwing around. They just would pay out the the law. So, and then there's some other agencies out there too that are trying to, it doesn't help the wildlife, but there is some things in place to pay some money for the livestock. You know, it rarely ever covers the complete cost of things, but.
And I wonder what else you got to sign up for, some type of a program. I mean, there's always a hidden agenda when you look at any of those type of payments or programs. There's always something that they're going to get on the other end. But I was, I was going to tell you, I was listening to this one radio show out of Montana, and I'm not sure if it's Montana or not, but there's an organization that's working with ranchers that are feeding cattle in the wintertime, and they have an abundance of elk coming in and eating a lot of that feed, and they got to put more feed out for the cattle every day because the elk eat X amount of that feed.
Yeah,
and they actually got programs out there saying, hey, look, you know, we do our flyovers, and we know that you have 100 and X amount of elk on your property and your winter pastures that you're feeding your cattle. We're going to give you at least, so much a ton to help you out a little bit. And I think that's a good idea, but I also look at it and it's like, but what else do they want you to do? And then I mean, there's always like a hidden agenda type of thing. And that, so it sounds good, but I hope it's good, but I'm always worried about what else is the fine print going into that. But let's get to a few things here on the government is proactive, never reactive, Brian says here. He says it's time to start stacking up blue coyotes. I'm not sure what that means. Do you? BLU?
No.
Okay. Kind of like buying your vote in the cause. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about what wolves do with elk population, deer population, antelope, ranchers, cattle. If you go on to research this, and like I said before we started the program, if you search how many cattle are killed by wolves, it's almost like most of the articles, if you really do some digging and find out who wrote these, are animal rights activists.
Yeah.
See, I don't feel that you're getting the right information. You're somebody who lives with this. You do it every day. This is your job. You're working with ranchers on a daily basis, and you get to talk to them. What are you hearing? And you do outfitting too. I've heard a lot of places. I have a buddy in Montana. They said once the wolves moved in, their elk are gone. What happens?
Well, for us, it's really been hard on our moose.
Okay.
The elk in areas too. A lot of times they'll push animals out once they move in. You know, they'll kind of push everything out. So like on the ranch side of things. Ask that question again here to make sure I'm not just rambling around it.
Are you seeing ranchers having issues out here? Are you seeing different herds? Are you seeing a reduction in population of game animals?
Yeah. So with the ranchers specifically, it ends up being a few ranchers get hit really hard, and most ranchers aren't being bothered at all. Okay. So there's that. So like when they talk about the conflict stuff, it's like any average, you know, it's like they say the average coyote has 7 pups, but what you really see is the younger ones have 3 and 4, and the older ones have 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. So you get an average that doesn't really reflect what's actually going on out there. So if you talk to ranchers that are up by the bighorns that are having, have a pack of 7 to 15 wolves that are moving through their area, they're drastically being impacted. Running livestock through fences. Sometimes it's not even killing stuff, and you can attest to this. Sometimes it's just disrupting. You can bum cows and calves. You can bum, even if there's a cow that comes in and just kills the one lamb, which every rancher would be like, if you're going to kill it and eat it, that's not as big a problem as you just having randomly stuff laying around. I'm kind of spinning around here a little bit, but it's hard to quantify the cost of predator management as for a rancher on a property. It's hard to quantify that because there's so many things that you're doing that doesn't necessarily have a dead calf to point at that somebody could reimburse you for.
Right.
Like the fence. You get elk that are hanging out on your place. It's the fencing that the ranchers, that I deal with. It's all this other stuff, if a wolf came in, kills a calf, ate the calf, and moved on, that's one thing. It's when they come in and killing stuff and they're not even eating it. I don't want anybody eating anything, mind you, but you're going to have some losses due to predation. But you don't really get a chance to manage it, because it might be 20 damn calves one night, and the next year it might be one the whole year,
Right. And not only that, but if they're moving them around and stressing them out, they might cause aborted calves. Or
100%.
And that's bottom line that comes out of your payment here as a rancher. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the conversation. Like when you're listening to stuff, and another problem is that people feel like they're not being heard. They're feeling like it's kind of a useless thing to do. But my experience is, because as an outfitter, we've got to get involved with this stuff and show up at these meetings, because it's my livelihood as much as it's a rancher's livelihood with some of these issues. And I don't see the participation in these, either the online forums, and it's as simple as just going online and just when they do a roll call, you just mark on her that you were there. It's just a numbers thing. When they do online surveys, participate in those surveys, because they read them. And at times, even we had so much response to some of the surveys that we did here last year before a bunch of these big game laws were changed, that if I remember right, they hired an outside company to help bring all that stuff together. So showing up at the meetings, and it doesn't have to be confrontational. You can just stand up and say, I disagree with you. You'd be amazed on what an impact that has.
Yeah.
Because you get 30 people at these meetings that affect, the ones I went to, it'd be 30 people there. And it would affect a population of, 50,000 hunters.
Yeah.
And they just feel like they're not really being heard. But even with your game and fish guy that you were speaking of, it's time consuming, but like a local, your county commissioners, your state representatives, hound them, get them at those darn meetings.
Yeah.
I had a public seat for a minute. If you're not willing to part, well, I was working for Wildlife Services, and they told me I couldn't. I ran for an office. I won the office. I was a committee man.
Oh.
Wildlife Services found out about it. I didn't listen to this, bro. I didn't get prior permission to be my section of town, to be the Republican committee man. So I had to resign from that position. But look at all these governors. Look at all these other state representatives, DA's office, all campaigning and running for office. But you get a little guy like me, I about lost my job over it because I didn't get permission. Anyways, so if you participate in these things, or hound your local representatives to appear at these meetings, it's these school boards, people complaining about what's happening with their school boards. How often, people who have kids, you ask your friends who have kids, do you go to the school board meetings? People have to participate in government, otherwise it's really not for the people.
Yeah. Even if you don't have kids in school,
nobody shows up.
Yeah.
Huh?
Even if you don't have kids in school, you should still be part of the school system and understanding what's going on there.
Yeah. Rec board meetings, county commissioners meetings. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets said in those meetings that just doesn't make it into the public. The more people are there, the more people that are talking about it. People need to participate in this whole thing,
Absolutely. Text message comes in. Jamie, it says, when talking about the wolf and even the grizzly issues in the West and the Great Lakes region, it is essential to realize that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has delisted the wolf. However, the animal rights groups have taken the USFWS back to court, where the favorable judges ordered the Fish and Wildlife Service to relist and restudy this issue. It's a no-win situation. Grizzlies are the same thing. They have been delisted and moved to state management, but then again, a court order has moved them back to federal control for more research. The ability to these animal groups can take the feds to court and change their research and management practices is a huge problem. And isn't that the truth? All they have to do is have money and take them to court, and they can hold up for years. They can hold it up, whether it's managing or hunting these animals that are affecting us.
Yeah.
And what gets me is I'm not sure, like the Colorado, whatever their game and fish is. Why were they, did they go against this? Did they speak against going, this isn't good for us? We don't need this. Or were they on the other side going, we can do this and, because they can't manage them. It's not in the state part, but were they fighting it or were they not? I just don't understand why a state game and fish would want something, especially in like North, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, where 90% of the income is through agriculture. I don't understand it.
Well, and again, I would think as a group they would have a bigger voice. I mean, so like this fella, this Kevin Crook, so he wants to do something. So he creates a website, got an LLC, he's got his Carnivore Human Coexistence Foundation now. I watch a lot of UFC. I don't watch any football. I don't watch any basketball, any of that stuff. I watch UFC. And one of the things you hear them complain about all the time is the pay. But they're not going to unionize. They're too independent. And it's hard to get a bunch of ranchers to get together as a group, pay for now, there certainly is with the Wool Growers Association and Livestock or Cattle Men's Association. I mean, there's certainly interest groups out there that help support them in some of these proceedings for legislative issues. But I know my dad was involved with some stuff back in the 70s. He did a lot of coon hunting back then, and you couldn't use 6-volt battery.
Yeah,
I think they called them wheat lights back then. You couldn't use them in North Dakota. We could only use the carbon with an open flame like the miners use. So when I was a little kid, I still got it. I had this little canister. You'd put this powder in there, mix it with water, had a valve, and plastic tube would go from my waistband all the way up to my hat, which had a flame on it, and you'd go coon hunting with it. And so my dad was part of a group of coon hunters that went to the state legislature and got that rule changed way back when. So it just gets back to the whole politicking thing, and need to be able to make sure there's a singular voice that speaks for a group. It's like the old, this is what the United States has been. If you look at all these big companies now that align themselves with the Democratic Party, they're the ones that are doing all the union busting right now.
Yeah. I see that, go to these meetings, but even if a person does, it always seems to me like the urban area money overtakes it compared to the population and the money that the rural America has. And it seemed like that way in the Colorado wolf distribution here too. So that's what they blame there. Text comes in, says Colorado Game and Fish were not allowed to even speak. They basically had a gag order in place from the governor, and I did not know that. Okay, well, that's too bad.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't believe as a government entity that they can engage in politicking for themselves one way or another in that. Usually when I'm at these meetings and these entities are there, they're able to answer questions.
But they got to ride the fence, don't they? Yeah.
Well, it's yeah, and going to the meetings, because you're going to meetings when you got local representatives. It's the county commissioner, it's a local guy. My county representative, my state representative, he's a local guy. He's a local rancher. There's 3 of them. So they're local people. So when you go to these meetings, and I don't know enough about where all the money's coming from on this stuff, and money, we're capitalists. We created this for ourselves. Money talks. But representative government means you got to go to the meetings. I mean, if you got 3,000 people standing there at a meeting grumbling over an issue, I am telling you what, that has a bigger impact than 3,000 people after the fact at the coffee shop complaining about the meeting they didn't go to and all the misinformation that comes along with it. It's just, I don't think we do a very good job of staying informed on the issues that we say that are important to us. I mean, I know you do. Every time I talk to you, you're just always in the know on this stuff. You talk to the right people, you do the right research, and you inform a lot of people with your show. But being informed is kind of can be a passive thing. And with all these issues, like these wolves issues, they've been talking about that for 3 years. And I'm looking at this thing, Only 3,000 views.
Yeah.
There's only 15 comments. The whole state of Colorado. This is one of the. This was a 5-part series. 3,000 views, and you can guarantee you those aren't ranchers. There's going to be a handful of ranchers, but it's all the people who are. They don't have anybody against this program. They got two. They got one Colorado biologist on this panel and one wildlife services biologist. But the wildlife services biologist isn't going to offer any kind of. He answers questions.
No. So we got a couple minutes before we finish with the radio and continue on the YouTube side. Before we get off the radio side, I want to make sure to ask you this question. Do you feel North and South Dakota will start seeing wolves pressured in? Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Minnesota, Canada?
Every square inch. Same thing with the grizzlies. I mean, if you just let them go, grizzlies used to run around the plains.
Yeah.
That Hugh Glass bear attack back in the day was on the Missouri River. It wasn't in the mountains.
Yeah.
Like they show in the movie. I mean, that was in the plains on like the Missouri River on the riverbank. So there's nothing. The wolf or the bear issue out here in the Bighorns is really kind of epic. I mean, if you want to call in a bear, just shoot a gun. You know, those grizzlies come running when you're shooting a gun, and there's tons of bears over in this country.
Wow.
And nobody hunts them, even the black bears. You know, like look at all the black bears in Minnesota. When I lived over there, you know, we hunted bear every fall, but most people don't mess with them, just as a way of reducing the population. You know, forget about eating them. I mean, you can eat them. The Minnesota bears are pretty good.
Yeah.
But
nobody's hunting the grizzlies in Wyoming. What's up with that?
No, and so one of the camps, I guide for S&S Outfitters, biggest antelope outfitter in the country. They huge outfitting. They picked up a camp, an elk camp that's running in those high 80s, low 90s. I think it's a general tag over in the East Fork area. And one of the main reasons that other outfitter was getting out of that camp is because the grizzly bears were so bad.
Wow.
But the first night they had got out there to start setting up camp for last year's season, the first night there, bear came into camp and blew all the horses out. So they spent from 2 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock the next day trying to gather all the horses back up again.
Man, oh man!
So you got to run electric fences and
that's
15-mile ride back in there to carry all that stuff with, like electric fences.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jamie, before we go, I want people to know where they can find information if they want to go antelope hunting, any other hunting out in Wyoming. How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so boxcreekoutfitters.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and then coyotehunter.net. If you just want to learn some stuff about coyotes, I've had that website since 2002, so there's a lot of information on that. So.
Perfect. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Eat some meat, drink some milk, and wear fur and wool. Have a good weekend. All right, stations. We're going to give them a little bit here to make sure that the stations are off, because then we can go unedited on the YouTube side, and then I don't have to yell at you for swearing, dropping an F-bomb on radio station.
For goodness sakes, I've been doing this for 20-some years, and I still screw up like that.
I got a text message right away from Riley. He's like, I think he said sucker.
Yes, I do too.
Oh man, let's see. The former Colorado Game and Fish Commissioner was known to be not in favor of the wolves. He was not reappointed last year by the governor. His replacement is from Washington State and had the political in for, say, to acquire the wolves from Oregon. Okay. Yeah, some of these guys really are putting in a lot of research here and sending it to me, so I appreciate that, everybody. Thank you. All right, so we're on YouTube now. And let's see here. Donkeys or llamas, which ones kill coyotes?
Neither.
Neither?
Neither. Good luck having a donkey catch a coyote.
Okay. So
I was on, so I've got Snapchat. So I'm on Snapchat most days of the week on my trap line throughout the year, because I'm and then also in the fall, there's a ton of bear camp and antelope camp. But anyway, I'm not kidding you. 2 days ago, I'm up on a ranch. I've been trapping that ranch since 2007. And the neighbor has himself some sheep, and every year he's getting a little bit more. And so when they first got going on it, his dad, or his father-in-law, he got married to this gal, and then the father-in-law, he's going to be a big trapper. So he starts running some snares back when we had $80 coyotes here in Wyoming. So he runs a bunch of snares, and he's getting so bold about it that next thing you know, he's jumping the fence and he's running snares on my stuff. So there was a little bit of a dust up about that. My rancher's he's the bomb. He's got my back on this stuff. So we got all that taken out. Well, then they were going to buy thermal, and then they were going to solve all their coyote problems on their sheep with thermal, right?
Yeah.
Spent all that money, $10,000-$15,000 on all that stuff, and so now they've moved. That didn't work either. So now they've moved and they've got donkeys out there. So just the other day, I'm going down the fence line, checking fence snares, and there's 2 donkeys standing out there. Here's the funny part. There's 2 donkeys out there. The fence line that those donkeys were on, I've been trapping that for, running that fence line for a long time. I've never had a snare in that fence. There's never been a go under, meaning there's never been a time where a coyote has dug underneath that fence to get from one side to the other. The day I see there's 2 donkeys in there, I found 2 go-unders in that fence. Like those donkeys and the llamas and the Pyrenees and the Akbashes and all of them, in my experience, they will do, like a good guard dog will gather the sheep up and move them off. They will do that. And that can be helpful if you've got a size of, if you're running 1,000 head of sheep, it's a little tougher for that dog to do it. But if you've got, a couple hundred head, that works pretty good. The llamas and stuff like that, I don't know what the hell they're supposed to do. The donkeys might make some noise. They'll make noise. But it only works for so long. So like with me, when a rancher's got those animals out there, it affects how I can use the tools that I have available to me to kill coyotes. So that's one thing. Negatively affects how I can use my tools. And then the other thing is they're not actually killing nothing. So what happens is the coyotes start stacking up around it until you get a population density such that they are just overwhelming those guard animals. So you might have a 1 to 3 year period if you have enough guard animals per, if you've got 400 head of sheep, you should have 2 guard dogs. There's whatever the ratio is that seems to work for your terrain, because it's going to vary if you're up in the hills compared to if you've got big open flats. You've got to have an area where the dog can actually bunch them up. That's a big part of it. Anyway,
yeah.
I obviously have strong opinions about this. I think they're a waste of time unless you have really small group of animals, which I'm never dealing with. Everything I deal with is big.
The thing about having donkeys, like you said, it might help keep them away, but it's not helping with the population of the predators.
Correct.
So, yeah,
and that's the real problem. Because the higher densities of predators, the more aggressive they get around food.
Yeah.
So if you've got a coyote, he'll walk by a dead antelope for days on end and maybe not even mess around with it, or a dead sheep or a dead cow. But the more coyotes you stack on top of that, then they get to be gluttonous and very, it's like a dog with a food dish. You put should never feed 2 dogs at the same time in the same room with dishes because they eat too fast. They start barfing up their food. You separate your dogs so they don't have to look. So they should be calm when they're eating. They shouldn't have to feel like they have to fight for the food. They won't eat it so fast.
Right.
Anyway, so there's the numbers. It's all about the densities. But I don't know. It seems like when I'm having these conversations with people, though, they just don't have enough understanding of how everything affects everything else. It's like the losses. When I listen to them, they're like, well, there's no reported kills yet on livestock from wolves. So then there's no harm, there's no cost to the rancher. And that conversation doesn't happen enough. When I go to these meetings and listen to this stuff, and I'm not a rancher, I'm around a lot of this stuff all the time, but it's hard. But one of the big ranches comes in and starts bringing up these common sense things. It sure has some has some weight to it,
Yeah.
Is there any kind of lobbying that's being done by the ranchers in these states for specifically wolf or predator related issues?
I haven't. I don't know of any. I guess I really don't. I mean, maybe the Fur Takers Association might be doing a little bit of something here and there, but nothing that is up in my mind here. I got a message here from this guy by Steve. He said he ran a burrow with 300 head of sheep. Seemed to work. That was in the eastern side of North Dakota.
Yeah, the smaller groups, I hope I qualified that correctly. You start dealing with smaller groups, which I'm dealing with, there's 1,500 ewe lamb pairs in this pasture, 1,300 ewe lamb pairs in the next pasture. It's a different thing. But on those smaller groups, especially with the guard dogs, 2 guard dogs on 400 head of sheep, if they're good guard dogs, I think they can really be helpful. So I don't want to completely crap on all that, but you take that donkey and put them out in the middle of nowhere in a large pasture, the size of pasture, the type of fencing. If you got tight sheep barbed wire, 5, 6, 7 strand barbed wire, and let's say you've got 400 head and you're running 4,000 acres, 2,000 to 4,000 acres, because you need more room for them, not the grazing, but just for the lambing side of things. And then you got to have a donkey that can keep track of them all, So there's a lot that goes into that. I'm always pleasantly surprised when somebody says they had some luck with that. But.
Yeah. Another coin. One Shot Cap says, ask Jamie if he has any dating advice for a 64-year-old guy. It's not me.
Oh my God. Dating advice. I don't know. At 64, do you want to?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You want to get rid of half your stuff at 64? Are you really?
Yeah. Maybe get rid of the blue pill. Maybe say no to the blue pill and take the red pill.
Steve says he does agree with you on your comment about running a burrow or out with that many head and that many acres and everything. So yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. That one family, they run. At least when I used to work up on them when I was working for Wildlife Services. But they would have, holy shit, 20 to 25 dogs on 2,000 to 2,500 ewe lamb pairs. And so you haven't seen nothing until you go.
Yeah.
You come up on a group of sheep that are bedded down on the side of a hill, and I mean 2,500 head. So 5,000 when you figure the lambs in her. And then everybody's bedded down, and you're walking with your dogs, my hunting dogs, my decoy dogs. And then Akbashes start standing up in the distance.
Yeah. So do those dogs, do they kill coyotes when they come across them? Or do they, if they get close enough, do they seek them out and kill them?
The Akbashes probably would.
Do they?
I mean, they're a 130-pound dog with a head like a Rottweiler and a body like a German Shorthair. They're just really fast, huge dogs. So I would imagine that there would be an opportunity at times for them to catch a coyote, chase down a coyote, kill a coyote. Now the Pyrenees, no, they ain't chasing down anything. Out here, but the Akbash is kind of a rangy dog. If you breed them back with a Pyrenees, so you'll see a lot of Pyrenees Akbash crosses, and that ends up being a good, guard dog. You just want them to bark and run towards something and bark. And like I say, up in the mountains in really remote areas, they can be beneficial, but in most areas, the sheep spread out too much. You couldn't possibly run enough dogs. And then you got to feed all that stuff. The dogs you got to feed. At least the donkey gets to eat what's out there.
Yeah. I always thought about running a donkey in with my cows to see if it would just deter them from coming into that calving pasture. But my cows would see a donkey and I'd have to fence for 8 miles if I'd throw something like that in there.
That's another thing too, right? And then sometimes you get cows. So I've got ranches out here that have wild cows. And then I got other places where there's tame as like a house dog. Yeah. And same thing with sheep. I've got some ranches where you pull in there and they're used to getting fed out of a cake truck or something like that. And they just come towards you. And with the dogs, if I go through some areas with my dogs, like running behind the side-by-sides, I'll have areas where the cows are trying to kill the dogs.
Yeah.
And then other areas where the cows pay no attention at all. But I'm talking groups, like the whole group is that way. And there's something to that. I've had these conversations with ranchers about buying yourself some wild cows because they make they're better with the coyotes, but it's harder to be branding and tagging and everything with them if you got wild
getting
cows.
them rounded up and
yeah.
Especially like
So there's
like for me, you know, I run on some Forest Service ground, and if you got to have them off, you have a 5-day window from your turn in or turn out date, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have any cattle left on there, you get charged so much per day per head, and if you can't get them out. But Steve says dating, don't do it. He says I did get a nice trip to South Dakota out of dating a girl one time though, so there you go.
Prison sentence. Did it come along with a bus ride and some orange jumpsuits?
Conjugal visit. Was it in Yankton? Could be.
Got a free bus ride to South Dakota for a day. I don't know, man. I would find yourself a real nice, calm gal that enjoys enjoys your presence and enjoys you not being around all the time, and that's it. That'd be my. I'm like, that would be a long conversation. So, we'd have to write a book about that.
I would say this. All right. Go to a city and find a homeless lady on the street, because it doesn't take much to impress them.
Well, you get one of those Venezuelan women, and you just bring the whole family in, and then you just got your service staff.
You got people to check heifers, people to check your sheep. Holy moly! Look at that.
Yep. Yep, it's just a transference of slave labor from the Central Americas, like they did in the 1600s, and now they're just bringing them up here. You go back and look at all that stuff, and that's why our minimum wage is still at $7.50 an hour for the last 30 years. You imagine none of those people that are running over the border, they're not going to unionize. They're not going to complain about crap wages and poor weekends and bad shifts.
Yeah. No, and they won't. Gene, the mayor of Mobert says, does she have hundreds of acres to hunt on, though?
Oh, you know what you need? You find a gal with 5 acres that has the backside of that opens on public land. That's the move.
Yeah, but then she's probably, and vegan, has nap hair, and I don't know about that either.
Yeah, man, if a guy has his own place, it'd be easier just to hire somebody to come by once a week and clean it.
See, we got to start. Eric out of South Dakota says that's like trying to find a woman to be a 1950s style housewife that wants to be barefoot and pregnant. You don't see those gals very much anymore.
No, our government has made it clear that they don't want that anymore. The sanctity of the 2-parent household and the stay-home mom, that is not in our political vernacular anymore. We need more people out there working. We need capitalism. We need to be out there all trying to be billionaires. How's that coming for you, Scott? The billionaire march.
I'm not even trying, man. Not even trying.
Yeah.
I'm living. I'm doing what's that actor? I'm just living. LIVIN, man. What the hell's his name? The all right guy.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey.
There you go. Yeah, that guy. I'm taking his approach to things. Kicking back when I drive my vehicle, I talk to myself. How cool it is.
Yeah, well, I should talk to myself a lot more than I used to. Me and that dog have some pretty long conversations.
Yeah. Well, everybody asked me what I talk to myself about. I said, well, I need expert advice. It's the only person I can ask. So,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Me and him think alike, so I know the answer is going to be good.
I suppose I better go out and check heifers, man. I'm in the middle of my AI stuff, and they're going like crazy. So
And you got good weather for it too. I mean, I would think
Man, Jamie, I'm going to send you a picture. I'm going to send you a video. I shouldn't say that. My wife made me put up a calving facility. And it's nothing fancy, okay? But for me, it is I'm just excited as heck here. I'm sending you a little video of it. And take a look at that. It has definitely helped my sanity.
Get out of the weather a little bit.
Well, if I have to bring them in, I haven't had to bring them in now. The next couple of days, we're going to get some cooler temperatures. But what I do is, if they have them out in the pen, I bring them in. I let them have their first milk. I bring them in. I put them in a bonding pen for a day, and they get kicked out from there. And just by bringing those calves in out of that wind, sometimes, man, it is so nice. And heifers are stupid. And I want them to know. I want that cow to know that's theirs.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. You want to have to lock them in a small box, those damn things, when they're new like that. They're like, what the heck is this thing following me around?
Oh yeah, and they're bellowing and some punting them across the pens, and so no. I keep them in that bonding pen for roughly about 24 hours, and then I kick them out, tag them, and kick them out. And it's been working pretty good. I got a couple cows that still are heifers that are like, what's this? Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I got to go out. I got one that had one here before the show started. I got to get that pair in, and I got to clean a couple stalls out and straw down a little bit more, and all kinds of good stuff. So onward with that. And then I might see how the heifers are doing tonight and maybe try to take my bride on a date tonight. Or as she said, mistress. She says, she did. She said, because she said, I'm married to my heifers right now, so she is now the mistress.
Oh, that's funny, man.
So I'm like, all right. Whalen Turner's big 3 apps are out, I was told.
The what are?
The big 3 apps. Oh, the applications, elk, moose, and bighorn sheep are available in North Dakota right now for residents.
Have you drawn any of those?
No.
No. Because that's still an impossible tag to get over there, isn't it?
For some people, it doesn't seem like it. It's a once in a lifetime tag, of course. But I don't know. I mean, I'm in the landowner elk draw, and that's nearly impossible. But everybody around me gets drawn.
You can't get any kind of gratis at all for that?
You do, but it's still a lottery. And for the elk, it's still a lottery gratis. And it's for how many landowners put in this area. So I don't know. We'll see. Got my fingers crossed. I've been putting in for quite a few years since I got my first quarter of land accepted into the Game and Fish's elk habitat that they need, which took 3 years to decide that.
I know. I've talked to the Game and Fish over in my neck of the woods about that, about who he gives that to and who he doesn't. And you want to talk about you better make that game warden better like you. That's what I came away from.
Absolutely.
They better like you.
And they don't like me. They made it very clear that they don't care for me. So I know. I understand. And I
think it's always good when they know your name.
Well, I called him and I told the lady, I said, look, I know you guys don't like me. And she giggled. I said, but you have to give me a reason why you're not accepting my property as elk habitat when I submitted photos for 4 years of elk on that land. And not only that, but written and signed and what do they call it? Notarized for 3 different people that have come and hunted and taken elk on that same spot. I said,
oh, geez.
You got to give me a reason why it's taken 3 years. And then I got a call back in 30 minutes and it was okay. And they accepted it. But it took that long. He's like, I know you guys don't like me. I get that. That's fine. I still respect what they do. Right? I mean, you can respect somebody without liking them. But still, you got to give me an answer. So now that it's just a process.
that kind of reminds me of back, just a short time here, we were talking about representatives for like ranchers and stuff like that. I know with the sheep, what would be the Sheep Growers Association here, Wool Growers Association, they hired an attorney and had an opinion written on who was responsible for the loss of livestock. Who did the coyote belong to? Because the state is pretty quick on saying that all the money makers, elk, bighorn sheep, they belong to the state and they get to manage them and do with them as they please. And so what that opinion is that the state also owns and is responsible for coyotes, wolves, lions, so on and so forth. And what that prompted was an infusement of federal money into Wyoming's wildlife services. I think it was $10 million.
Wow.
And that is the kind of thing. So the ranchers hired, they have their own group, but they hired. So another thing that a person can do is that you can hire your own experts. You can hire a biologist. So like that meeting that they were having, they had representatives there. You can lobby to have your voice heard and have your biologists weigh in on these panels. And like hunters generally, trappers for sure, and ranchers do a really good job. Farmers do a really good job with some of these things, but then others, like these predatory issues, they don't seem to know how to approach that. But I mean, that's so we have, I don't know if North Dakota has a outfitters association, but we have a state ran with governor appointed individuals for the Wyoming Board of Outfitters. And then we also have WYOGA, Wyoming Outfitters and Guides Association, which is part of a lobbying group where we hire lobbyists in order to help us put down bad legislation.
Yeah.
And so is the states that haven't had to fully deal with reintroduction, these animal rights groups spend years doing this.
Yeah. And they're so far ahead when they do move into your state.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got a whole organization. And so some of the problem is the independence of ranchers and, and to a lesser degree, the independence of farmers, but agricultural, in general, don't do a good job. They'll a lot of times take that money from the federal government, but as far as on the legislative side, it's kind of a hands-off deal. I'm not going to fight to get a government handout, but if you're giving me one, I'll take it. But they need to get a little bit more involved in some of these predatory issues at a ground level, and hire some people to do impact studies for their area. Do an impact study in order to submit that to the individual agencies. And then hire an attorney and a lobbyist to take that information to help guide legislators, give them something to argue from other than an emotional response at a chat forum or a board meeting.
It's too bad though, Jamie, that in today's society that we have to spend all this money to do something that I feel our Game and Fish did very well for many, many years.
Yeah.
And took our word for it. I mean, it's like, they seen the struggles that some of us had, and it's just too bad that it has to come to a point where you have to bring in a separate biologist and attorney just to prove something that you can blatantly see with your own eyes. It's too bad.
Yeah.
It's too bad it's getting to that point in life anymore,
too many people are removed from the farm, though. You know, like back in the day, you could have these conversations because everybody knew where a burger came from. But nowadays, you're really getting that information together to sell it to those so many fence riders that just don't. That would make a good decision if they had a balanced, informative, we just don't do a good job of other than an emotional response or talking to people that 100% agree with us, like a bunch of ranchers sitting around solving all the world's problems, but then walking out the door and nobody gets to hear that brilliance. Sometimes it's nice to have that person in the room that's taking all that decades and decades, centuries of information and being able to put that in a way that can be palatable for an uneducated, constituent. Because those local representatives that we're putting in these positions, if they're not going to these meetings, which they're not, at the meetings, my guys don't ever show up at them. But I send them emails, saying, hey, this is how I want you to think about this. They can pitch them in the garbage, but I'm trying to make that connection. Hey, missed you at the meeting last night. Where are you at?
Yeah.
Well, they want those positions, and if they're not, anyway, it sucks that we have to be involved in this stuff the way we are these days. But we're losing the battle left and right on these things because our kids aren't doing it either. There's kids going to college just to have this discussion, and
it's going to be scary to see what happens in the next 5-10 years.
Oh, geez, yeah. The atheists took over the Democratic Party. We'll all be bowing down to the owl god here in no time at all if they keep it up.
The owly god. How about the what's that other one? The scientific Scientology. There you go. What do they believe in? I can't remember what they like. Flying show or something.
No, so all the aliens from this planet that was going to Zion, so their planet blew up. And then they were deposited their souls were deposited in volcanoes. And then when the volcanoes blew up, those souls went flying around and landed into bodies like Tom Cruise. And so Tom Cruise has a dual identity. He has an alien in him that dictates what he does. Anyway, it's fascinating. I mean, you get right down to it. Those people... Oh, they believe in some crazy stuff, man. Yeah, they're from a different planet. They got the souls and these old, yeah. Anyway, that's a rabbit hole. It's a cult, it's just another cult.
All right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks again for being able to do this and talk and give some education to folks. I appreciate it a lot.
All right, buddy. Enjoy the beautiful weather you're having in the cabin.
When you coming back up in this neck of the woods?
Oh, I want to get. I was thinking about trying to get back here in June. It'd probably be the earliest.
Okay.
I got some turkey hunts. I'm gonna be starting to do some guided turkey hunts, some spring guided turkey hunts, and so I've got some work I got to do on that yet this spring, and then plus I'm gonna be guiding spring bear hunts up in the mountains, and then all the predator control stuff on the sheep. So busy spring.
Do you do grizzly? Is Wyoming a grizzly bear state?
We've got grizzly bears. I don't believe there's any tags for it as of yet.
Okay. Because I'd like to do a bear hunt, but I got to wait until calving's done. I mean, I don't think that would time out right. But
have you ever black bear hunted?
I've never hunted any bear.
So the black bear hunts, that's a fantastic hunt if you get we're out of Alpine up in the Bridger-Teton National Forest. So the camp is at 7,200 feet. There's 10,000-foot mountains all the way up and down that Grays River. They shoot, about 90% of the bears that we take out of there are color phase bears. The black bears generally are because somebody wanted to shoot a black bear, and we're passing up some color phase get. And then our take, we're right up around 90% on our take as well. It's some of the best bear hunting you've ever seen.
How big do they get?
Oh, geez, man. Opening day 2 years ago, opening day, we had 3 bears. We had one that was 6'11.5", and the other two, one was 7'1", the other one was 7'2" or 7'3". And those two, the two bigger two, both those scored almost 20 inches.
Can you send me information about what I have to do and what I would probably be looking at cost wise for you to be able to,
the tags are over the counter, and
for non-resident.
Yeah. Huh. Yep. And the hunts, so that's with S&S Outfitters. The hunts are around, I don't know, $5,500 or something like that.
Okay.
They're a 5-day hunt. It's about an hour to get out to the camp on a gravel road. You're going about 25 miles an hour, and there's no electricity, but the cabins all have flushing toilets, full showers. It's all propane.
Yeah.
So they're fantastic, man. Yeah, I'll send you some information.
Yeah,
but we see some codes out of there. Yeah, it's great hunting. The bear hunting out there is phenomenal. So I'll get that off to you.
I'd like to try to do something like that before I get too old to do it, you know?
Well, and the thing is, so this is what this camp is like. So usually you're up at about 8. Breakfast is at 8:30. There's a stock trout pond on the property, but there's a cutthroat up and down either the sheep or else the Grays River. And then we're usually eating at 3:30 in the afternoon. We start heading for the blinds between 4 and 5. Usually headed back out by around 8:15. Hors d'oeuvres and drinks back at the lodge at night. Usually looking at the bears that were shot that night. It's fantastic. Yeah, you would love it. I'll get you some information.
Do that, please. Send it, because I'd like to get something. It'd be nice to do something like that, and it'd make for good radio.
Oh, yeah. I'll send you some pictures. It's phenomenal. So, all right, man. I'll let you get going.
Before you go, somebody said they've been listening to me. They sent me a Snapchat of a goddamn donkey honking at me. Son of a bitch. Have a good one, Jamie. Catch you later.
All right, bud. Bye.
Yeah. All right, YouTube. Thanks for hanging in with me. Appreciate it. Have yourself a good weekend.